Hello, Internet. My name is Mr. Lupino. I will be here to help you with genetics, genetic problems. Hopefully, you've done the assignments on Monday. I am making this video so that way I can go over how to answer the questions to the best of my ability. So, it is my intention that you are watching this after you've completed it for yourself, so that way you are able to basically just see exactly what kind of answers we're looking for, and I'm going to help explain everything. So the very first question is, what does it mean for something to be hereditary? So we really have to remember what it means, hereditary. Hereditary, just like the word heredity. Heredity, right? So what exactly is heredity? I'll give you 10 seconds to think about what that could be. All right. So heredity essentially is the passing of traits from one organism to another. So in this case, heredity, we're talking about traits which are, remember, traits are physical characteristics that make up who we are. What are some examples of traits? Well, there are many different types of traits. We have eye color, we have hair color, we have height, weight, skin color, all different types of things. Diseases can also be uh, heritable, many different things. So what does it really mean to be hereditary? Well, the answer I'm looking for is something along the lines of passing traits down from parent to offspring. We have to remember, what does the word offspring mean? Offspring means baby. Okay, so we're passing traits down. Number two, if there is a mutation, a change in DNA, it is passed down in body cells or sex cells. Why? Well, we have to remember, if I have letters A, T, or whatever, we need to know that they can only be passed down certain things. So for example, a body cell is like a skin cell. Now, you can get a mutation on your skin cell, but they're asking if it can be passed down. A sex cell is something like a sperm or an egg cell. Which one do you think is most likely to be passed down? Well, if you were thinking sex cell, you are correct. It is sperm cell or egg cell. Why is that? It's because sex cells pass down genetic information during meiosis. The sex cells exchange DNA with each other through their chromosomes. I must edit this. I'll just say the chromosomes of both parents exchange DNA, where some can have the mutation. So it is sperm cell and egg cells that will pass down a mutation. Skin cells will not. Body cells will not. So we can delete skin cells. Alrighty, number three. Below is the ancestry of dogs. Describe how this occurred using the term selective breeding. So what exactly is selective breeding? Well, this is a dog, this is a wolf, and wolves have evolved into other creatures of pets, of dogs. And we have taken care of these creatures for many, many years. How is this possible? Well, what people have done is they've taken the weakest and calmest wolves, who they weren't really for hunt. I mean, some were hunting, but they took the more tamer wolves and they bred them together. So let's just say we had weak wolf, then we found another weak wolf, and then we made them have babies. So then what was created from that, where's that? Yep. What was created was a baby that was also weak. So as we can see here, we've taken two traits that were from two different species and made them reproduce. This way, they're making a trait that is considered desirable. So how can we write this as a sentence? People have bred, so bred means to reproduce. People have bred animals to create offspring. And remember, what did offspring mean? Baby. People have bred to reproduce animals to create offspring that have desirable traits. Well, we're missing something, aren't we? We need to use the term selective breeding. We have to really incorporate our vocabulary in our answers. So what is this process called? Selective breeding. So people have been, people have been performing selective breeding methods to reproduce animals. No, let's hit that. To create offspring that have different traits. Yep. So people have been performing selective breeding to create offspring that have desirable traits. Okay, that's your answer number 3. 4. Below is genetic engineering. Describe what is happening. So what do we have here? We have a gene of human insulin. So what is this? This is not really medicine technically, but this is something that the human needs to break down sugar. It's very, very helpful. Some people cannot make a lot of it, known as diabetes, and so they need to have more insulin to survive. Thankfully, with science and technology, we've created medicine for them. We're producing insulin. How are we doing that? Well, we're taking the gene of interest, we're putting it inside bacterial DNA. So this is DNA of bacteria. We put them together. We use enzymes called restriction enzymes to glue them together. We use restriction enzymes to cut DNA, and then we glue them together using sticky ends, and then from there, we insert it back to the bacterial cell. What does this mean? Bacteria is reproduced by mitosis. That means all the DNA will be identical in the next offspring generation. That means that one piece of insulin is going to multiply exponentially. It's going to double and double and double. So now we have hundreds and millions of copies of insulin. So what were the steps? Step 1, have the gene of interest. Step 2, cut the bacterial DNA. Step 3, use restriction enzymes. Cut the bacterial DNA using restriction enzymes. And then combine the gene with the bacteria DNA. In living environment, you don't need to know why. It glues together. It's not important. And then step 4 is the bacteria reproduce by what? Mitosis or meiosis. Mitosis to copy the gene of interest, which is insulin. Okay, those are the steps of genetic engineering. Number 5, how is selective breeding different than genetic engineering? Well, they are very similar. However, there's one thing that's very different. In genetic engineering, what are we doing? We are manipulating the DNA directly. We are cutting and pasting DNA onto a new organism. In selective breeding, does that happen? No, that does not happen. That's the major difference. So, number 6, put the following words in the correct order from smallest to largest. So we have to find let's start with the largest first. What is the largest thing here? If you said human, you are correct. So I know it says from smallest to largest, but put this here first. Humans are our biggest thing. What's after that? What's the next biggest thing? The next biggest thing here is nucleus. A nucleus is an organelle in the cell that's going to house the next thing we're going to add. So after a nucleus, what do we have? The choices we have left is gene, chromosome, DNA. Gene, chromosome, DNA. The next thing is chromosome, then gene, and then DNA. All right. So your genes are pieces of DNA. Your chromosome contains many different genes. You have your nucleus, which is containing the chromosome, and then we have our human being. All right. Next is number 7. Define the following terms. Replication. This is when DNA makes copies of itself. Transcription. DNA becomes RNA. Translation. RNA becomes protein using the organelle ribosome. A ribosome is what? It is an organelle that makes proteins. Okay, number 8. The nucleus is an organelle of a cell that contains what? What's inside the nucleus? DNA. The organelle that RNA goes inside to produce amino acids is known as ribosomes. 10. Enzymes can cut DNA. This can be useful during selective breeding or genetic engineering. So as we went over before, this was used for which one? Genetic engineering. And then lastly, how can we use genetic engineering to create insulin, diabetic medicine to help people? Well, what can we say? We take the gene of interest, insulin, put it inside a bacteria's DNA, which is known as a plasmid, but on the reagents I never see the word plasmid. Then make the bacteria reproduce. This will create copies of insulin for humans. There. So I just went over all the answers to this question. I'll do one more little scroll. This is the first video I have made. Hopefully I will definitely make more of these. We will do more in-depth ones. This is just a trial. So I hope this has been helpful.